Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this very special day, especially those from the HypoPARA community joining us online and in person. Today is about you and for you. My name is Mishaela Rubin. I am the Associate Director of the HypoPARAthyroidism Association and also a post-surgical HypoPARA patient who was diagnosed at the age of 23 after a total thyroidectomy from thyroid cancer. Our mission at the HypoPARAthyroidism Association is to improve the lives of those impacted by this disease through education, support, research, and advocacy. Today, we take another step towards that by sharing with you a better understanding of this complex endocrine disorder through this externally led, patient-focused drug development meeting. We hope you will gain a greater understanding of the severity of impact on patients' daily lives through the testimonies you will hear today. I would like to extend a special thank you to the members of the FDA who have taken the time to join us, especially the members of the CDER team we have been working with for the last year to prepare for today's event. Ethan, Lena, and Will, we appreciate the guidance you have given us. We know you are going to learn a lot from this incredibly brave group of people affected by HypoPARA and their caregivers who are sharing their experiences. We know you have many critical factors to consider on a daily basis, but we hope these presentations will help you understand the burden of this disease that is unfortunately growing in numbers of patients affected every day. I would like to welcome our sponsors who generously support us throughout the year, including today's meeting. Thank you to Amulet, Ascendis, BridgeBio, MBX Biosciences, and Takeda. The HypoPARAthyroidism Association was started in 1994, coincidentally the same year I was diagnosed. It was started by James Sanders, who himself, along with his 5 sons, all suffer from this disease. One of his sons, Bob, is currently the president of the association, and you will hear his story later today. James came up with the idea for the association after meeting another patient with the disease, besides himself and his children, while participating in a study at the NIH. Although much has changed in the 30 years since the association was conceived, one thing hasn't changed. We still do not have an FDA-approved treatment for hypoparathyroidism. What we have learned along the way is that hypopara is not just a lack of the calcium, even though currently that is the only part of the disease we treat. It is a complex endocrine disorder caused by no PTH or the lack of sufficient PTH. Long-term, the lack of PTH causes many issues with other organ systems such as kidney disease, cognitive dysfunction, brain and arterial calcifications, and other issues we are just beginning to understand. These organ systems are also increasingly affected by the only current treatment for the disease, which is large amounts of calcium supplements and active vitamin D. Today, you will hear about the daily burdens and impacts this disease has had on patients and their families. We are fortunate that researchers and the pharmaceutical industry have become very interested in hypopara over the past several years. There are currently 3 medications in clinical trials and several more in the works. Our medical need for treatment for hypopara is no longer just a dream. There is hope for our future and for future approvals, and we are so grateful to the hypopara patients who were desperately looking for help and have given of their time and bodies to be a part of these clinical trials. We are joined today by people from around the world affected by hypopara. So often we hear that your doctors don't understand and you feel unheard. Today is your day to be heard. Many of you will have the chance to share your stories and comments with us, the FDA, and other key stakeholders. We have so much to learn from your stories. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Naomi Lowy, Deputy Director of the Division of General Endocrinology at the FDA.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Naomi Lowy. I am an endocrinologist, and I serve as the Deputy Director in the Division of General Endocrinology in the Office of New Drugs and the Center for Drugs at FDA. I have been with FDA for almost 17 years, most of that time in new drug development for patients with endocrine diseases. I am very happy to see so many patients, caregivers, and advocates in the audience, and I know who are on the web as well. Thank you all for being part of this meeting and sharing your experiences with us. I would particularly like to thank the HypoPARAthyroidism Association and all of the staff that were involved in planning this meeting and for including us. Over the years, I have attended a number of patient-focused drug meetings, and I can tell you that hearing from the patient community has a profound impact on us. What you share helps us better understand how patients struggle and what they need, and therefore helps us drive, facilitate, and streamline drug development. I know we also have representation from industry, academia, and other medical product development stakeholders in the room and on the web. While FDA plays a critical role in medical product development, we are just one part of the process, and I am glad to see a high level of interest from those of you who also play an important role. These meetings give us and all of you key stakeholders an important opportunity to hear directly from patients, their families, caregivers, and patient advocates about the symptoms that matter most to them, the impact the disease has on patients' daily lives, and patients' experiences with currently available treatments. Hypoparathyroidism is associated with significant morbidity and poor quality of life. Just already speaking to some of you this morning, it is clear just how profoundly this disease impacts patients. The therapeutic options are limited. For many years, the only option has been calcium and vitamin D, often needed in high doses that are associated with effects on other organs. Parathyroid hormone was approved in 2015 as an adjunct to calcium or vitamin D to control hypocalcemia in patients with hypopara, but will be discontinued at the end of 2024. FDA recognizes the need for additional effective and safe treatments for hypoparathyroidism. FDA protects and promotes public health by evaluating the safety, effectiveness, and quality of new products, but we do not develop medical products or conduct clinical trials. It is, however, FDA's responsibility to ensure that the benefits of a product outweigh its risks. Therefore, having this kind of dialogue is extremely valuable for us because hearing what patients care about can help us lead the way in figuring out how to best facilitate medical product development for hypoparathyroidism and understand how patients view the benefits and risks of therapies for this disease. And we look forward to incorporating what we learned today into the agency's thinking. FDA shares the patient community's commitment to facilitate the development of safe and effective medical products for hypoparathyroidism. Once again, we are all here today to hear the voice of the patient. So thank you for your participation. We are grateful to each of you for being here and sharing your personal stories, experiences, and perspectives. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Lowy, for that wonderful introduction. Michelle, fabulous job getting us kicked off this morning. So everybody, welcome. I am Patty Keating. I'm the Executive Director of the HypoPara Association. And you'll hear me say HypoPara a lot because hypoparathyroidism is that big, long word. So as we refer to it kindly as HypoPara. So I'm a post-surgical patient as well of 9 years. And I'm happy I'm going to be the moderator for today's event. We've been working on this event for the last 10 to 12 months. Thankful for the FDA and their coaching and all of the sponsors. I'm going to review the full agenda soon, but before we get started with that, we have another special guest that we want to invite to speak to kick us off and talk about the effects and the symptoms of hypopara. So welcome to Dr. Mishaela Rubin.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today to speak at this externally led, patient-focused drug development meeting. These are my disclosures. Hypoparathyroidism is a rare disease, the hallmark of which is a low serum calcium in the setting of an absent or low PTH level. It's a very rare disease. Estimates say that it's present anywhere from 77,000 to 115,000 people in this country. And the most common cause is post-surgical hypoparathyroidism, which can happen after anterior neck surgery, maybe for thyroid cancer or goiter or hyperparathyroidism. But 25% of patients have non-surgical hypoparathyroidism, and this can include genetic causes like autosomal dominant hypocalcemia type 1, autoimmune polyendocrine syndrome type 1. There can be transient hypoparathyroidism in the setting of low magnesium, other autoimmune causes, rarely destructive causes. And what happens when we don't have enough PTH is that the mechanisms for controlling calcium and phosphate become deranged. So PTH normally will liberalize calcium and phosphate for the bone, thus raising serum calcium. It will also promote the reabsorption of calcium at the level of the kidney, thus raising calcium. At the same time, it will help with phosphate excretion at the kidney, and at the kidney, PTH stimulates the conversion of regular vitamin D to activated 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D, thus promoting calcium and phosphate absorption in the intestine. So without these mechanisms, people are left with a low serum calcium, a high urine calcium, and a high serum phosphate level. And to try to address these, patients take conventional management, which means taking calcium pills multiple times a day, as well as calcitriol or activated vitamin D, since the body isn't able to make it, multiple times a day. And in addition to those pills, patients often need to take pills for low magnesium. They also need to take regular vitamin D pills and sometimes also thiazide diuretics to help combat the hypercalciuria. And together, this leads to a very heavy pill burden. And that, along with the symptoms and the long-term complications, lead to a substantial burden of disease. And physical symptoms are very common in patients with hypoparathyroidism. Most of them relate to neuromuscular irritability. So patients will very frequently describe struggles with muscle function, so muscle twitching, cramping, spasms, or weakness. More than 80% of patients describe tingling and numbness, and then there are nonspecific features also like fatigue, low energy pain, or heat intolerance. And when hypocalcemia is severe, more dangerous symptoms can happen. The EKG can show prolongation of the QT interval, triggering an arrhythmia. Patients can even have seizures or life-threatening laryngospasm. And conventional treatment really isn't adequate for treating these symptoms. First of all, because we oftentimes have wild swings in the calcium with erratic biochemical control. So patients can have symptoms of hypo and hypercalcemia with conventional management. And also, we're limited with how much conventional management we can use, because were we to give our patients enough calcium so they could function normally, it would be at a cost to the kidney by increasing the hypercalciuria. Cognitive symptoms are also very common in patients on conventional management. Over 50% of patients say they have brain fog, and what this means more specifically is memory loss, forgetfulness, trouble concentrating and focusing, trouble understanding information, difficulty with finding the right words, impaired ability to have a conversation. And again, these symptoms are often present even when the serum calcium is normal. So it's also not being addressed by conventional management, and it raises the question of whether the PTH itself is important for normal cognitive function. We know that PTH crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it binds to CNS neurons that have a PTH receptor. So this might very well be an important facet of hypoparathyroidism that will be not addressed at all, even when the serum calcium is normal on conventional management. Emotional symptoms are also a big part of hypoparathyroid patients' lives who are on conventional management. Large epidemiologic studies have shown that the risk of suffering from psychiatric illness is more than doubled in surgical and non-surgical hypoparathyroid patients. So this can entail feeling depressed, and a very large systematic survey showed that depression is one of the most common complications of hypoparathyroidism. And patients live with anxiety. They might be afraid of the future, being able to take care of themselves, their family, and being able to continue to work. They also live in fear of having a calcium crash, which is when the calcium suddenly drops and patients have sudden physical and cognitive symptoms and need to go to the ER or be hospitalized. And these crashes can happen completely unexpectedly without an obvious trigger. Patients also worry about the long-term consequences, problems such as kidney stones, kidney calcification, and chronic kidney disease. And not only does conventional management not address those complications, it actually worsens the risk of those complications. And patients also worry that their caregivers are just not understanding their difficulties. Over and over they will hear, but everything is fine, your serum calcium is normal. So overall, these emotional symptoms are really not being adequately addressed with conventional management. And taken together, this constellation of physical, cognitive, and emotional symptoms leads to a degraded quality of life for hypoparathyroid patients. Multiple studies in multiple populations have shown that patients live with poor quality of life with hypoparathyroidism. General nonspecific tools like this short form health survey 36, as shown here, has shown that on conventional management, patients suffer with reduced physical and mental function, and more specific hypoparathyroidism surveys that are tailored for hypoparathyroid patients have shown the same thing. And again, these surveys were mostly done with patients who have normal serum calcium, showing that even with normal calcium on conventional management, quality of life is severely compromised. What this translates to people is really debilitating issues in their personal and professional lives on a daily basis, which means that many patients have symptoms for most of the day despite being on conventional management. Many patients have to plan around the fear of having symptoms when they plan out their day. Despite conventional management, patients are burdened with multiple pills. Some patients take upward of 20 pills a day. Patients on conventional management don't have full mobility, are limited in their activities, being able to exercise. They're limited in their activities at home, feeling they can be able to take care of their children without counting on someone else. And patients on conventional therapy also might not have full productivity at work and in fact might even be worried about their job security because their disease isn't being sufficiently managed. And perhaps most importantly, this affects interpersonal relations of patients with their family members and loved ones, and also can thus very adversely impact their social relations. So I think it's abundantly clear to us that the poor quality of life and the symptoms in this disease are not being adequately treated with conventional management, and we urgently need new treatment strategies in order to be able to improve the lives of hypoparathyroid patients. Thank you.